It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
This is your 420 Radio News for Friday, October 17th, 2014. Hunter Biden, the youngest son of Vice President Joe Biden, has been discharged from the U.S. Navy for a positive result for cocaine on a routine drug test. Ensign Biden's Navy career ended after just 10 months as an officer when he was administratively discharged in February of this year. His father, Vice President Biden, as a senator in the 1980s, was one of the leading proponents of the strict war on drugs legislation of the Reagan administration. Biden coined the term drug czar to describe the position of director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy that Biden created. The push for the use of mandatory minimum sentencing for drug crimes, RICO statutes for the prosecution of drug dealers, the IRS 280E code that thwarts legal marijuana businesses, and just about every evil of the drug war you can think of owes its genesis to Senator Joe Biden. States with medical marijuana laws saw decreases in suicide rates as well as a drop in drunken driving, particularly among young men, said Ben Hansen, a University of Oregon economics professor who spoke with Portland business leaders Thursday. Researchers looked at the first 5 years after medical marijuana was introduced in 17 states and found an average 5% drop in suicide rates. Among men 20 to 29 years old, rates fell by an average of 11%. Youth consumption generally did not climb in states with medical marijuana laws. Hansen, in his own work, researched traffic fatalities in Oregon and 16 other states with medical marijuana laws and found an average 8-point drop within the first 5 years of the law's implementation. The number of drunken driving fatalities dropped by 13 to 15%. The decreases were largest among young men, he said. A new University of Delaware poll finds that 56% of Delawareans support the legalization of marijuana use. The university polled 902 Delaware adults between September 10th and 22nd, finding just 39% opposed to legalization. Delawareans older than 60 and self-identified conservatives were the only groups to express deep opposition, while young adults and liberals drove the support. Support for legalization crossed racial and geographic boundaries, with poll respondents in all 3 counties saying they back legal marijuana. Of course, public support does not always accurately predict political support. Governor Jack Markell remains opposed to full legalization of the drug, a spokesperson said on Thursday. Legislation introduced earlier this year by State Representative Helene Keeley, a Wilmington Democrat, would have allowed Delawareans to legally possess up to an ounce of marijuana for personal use without regulating and taxing sales of the drug. Facing political opposition, the bill was scrapped. A Grand Rapids doctor has admitted he certified medical marijuana patients and caregivers without providing medical evaluations. In some cases, Dr. Gregory Koldenek met with groups of prospective patients and caregivers in restaurants and signed certifications around a common table. He even signed certifications without the patients present. The allegations are contained in a plea agreement Koldenek signed that calls for him to plead guilty to conspiracy to manufacture fewer than 50 marijuana plants. He is among 10 arrested for allegedly growing marijuana in homes and apartments in Kent County. Among the requirements to properly issue a card are that the physician has a bona fide relationship with the patient and that there is a complete and full assessment of the patient's history. Pennsylvania efforts to create a medical marijuana program have been vaporized for now. The State House of Representatives is unlikely to take up the measure passed in September by the House, with only one voting day remaining in the 2013-14 session, according to a spokesman for House Republican Majority Leader Mike Turzai. House leaders have too many questions and want to hold at least 2 hearings. Quote, "No, there is no intention of bringing that legislation up for a vote," end quote, the spokesman, Steve Miskin, said Thursday. The state Senate voted 43-7 on September 24th to pass its medical marijuana legislation, SB 1182, that would legalize vaporized and edible cannabis for medical use. It needs to be approved in the House before going to Governor Tom Corbett for his consideration. Governor Corbett has always opposed any effort to legalize medical marijuana. The campaign No on 91 held its press conference against Measure 91 marijuana legalization in Oregon. We'll bring you that conference at 4 p.m. today in Toker Talk Radio. This has been your 420 Radio News for Friday, October 17th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville.